Neon White is a first-person shooter released in late 2022, and it is one of the most underrated games I've had the pleasure of playing. Without getting too far into it, the game combines several different elements of drastically different genres and melds them all together into such a mechanically sound experience, so much so that it even managed to climb all the way to the top of my personal Game of the Year list. Oh, and before you say anything, I never played too many of the high-profile releases from last year, and the ones I didn't finish until 2023. So yeah, this was my Game of the Year. Fight me. Anyway, shut up and let me talk about this game I like. I'm sorry, that was uncalled for. Please don't leave. Actually, on that note, I've always had an issue whenever I would talk about this game to my friends. It was hard to properly convey what the whole thing even was, let alone explain why the gameplay is superb.
You even properly say this title.
However, after hours upon hours of studying the sacred Japanese texts, I think I've found a way. I'm just going to throw a few keywords at you, ones that I feel play an integral role in creating this freakish indie game. First-person shooter, speedrunning, and dating sim. It sounds weird, but trust me, this goes hard. Developed by Angel Matrix, I see what you guys did there, and published by Annapurna Interactive, Neon White is an awesome blend of fast-paced first-person shooting and quick on-the-fly puzzle solving, all coming together in an absolutely gorgeous art style, taking cues from Christian imagery and cel-shaded anime-like designs to make some truly spectacular eye candy. Take a look at some of these skyboxes. Holy god, that's lovely. Oh, it also has a story. One that players seem to be very mixed on, to say the least.
You're so lucky you don't have big boobs, White. They get it the worst.
Dialogue in this is a fucking embarrassment.
The game currently sits at an overwhelmingly positive rating on Steam, and an impressive 89 on Metacritic. Seriously, that's pretty damn good. I mean, Neon White technically reviewed better than Jedi Survivor. What? To play devil's advocate for a second, I'll give you all the benefit of the doubt. We all know that professional game critics are oftentimes a bit off the mark.
Werehog levels, and yes, I'm looking directly at you, Sonic with rabies.
Those who've sat down and played Neon White loved the experience, though I feel like it wasn't talked about nearly enough. Sure, it got the usual influx of IGN and other prominent gaming site reviews, and a decent handful of YouTubers giving their thoughts on the product. Hell, there was even a pretty good Donkey video on the subject, as I clipped a few seconds ago. But now that the game is nearly a year old, the general buzz seems to have died down quite drastically. Which is to be expected, especially in a market as oversaturated as indie video games, let alone the wider gaming industry. And I think that's a shame. I don't want this game to turn into yet another cult classic. So today we're going to be taking a look at the game's plot, gameplay, and mechanics, and anything else I want to say about this wonderful product. So friends, sinners, and everyone in between, let's take a look at Neon White. Welcome to heaven. That's right, the pearly white gates themselves, complete with smarmy, condescending residents who, despite most religions renouncing earthly desires, seem very content with indulging in the best foods, lavish living conditions, and many different variations on materialism while in the afterlife. Also segregation.
Their population always spirals out of control this time of year.
What do you mean by that?
Alright, we're pretty on brand so far. Oh, and the angels are cats? Okay, I must have missed a chapter somewhere, no big deal. We take the role of the titular Neon White, one of the many sinners who were sent down to the fiery pits of hell, only to be brought into heaven by the pure spirits residing within. Though unlike his fellow Neons, White has lost the majority of his past memories, unable to recall anything prior to waking up in heaven, though he isn't given much time to compose himself, quickly forced to compete in a competition called the 10 Days of Judgment, where the neons are used to do the gods' dirty work and cull the army of invading demons. Once the 10 days are over, the sinner with the highest amount of demonic kills gets to stay in God's domain. Handed a soul card, a weapon linked to the user's past, and forced to wear an awesome looking mask, which also has a Suicide Squad bomb put into it, White heads out into the world, killing demons, interacting with the other neons, all while trying to unravel the mystery of his past. So, if I were to summarize the game as poorly as possible, it's an unholy combination of Squid Game, early 2000s anime, and furries.
You're so lucky you don't have big boobs, White.
Joking about the furry part, but still, the angels are cats. Though, judging by the apparent inspirations, Neon White can feel rather campy, and I'll be honest, a bit cringe at times. Take a quick gander at most reviews on this topic, and you'll see that the story is mostly considered a cliché anime with awful dialogue. Well, I like that shit, and I like this plot too, damn it! Sure, it's childish at times, and full of humor you'll either love or wince at.
You're so lucky you don't have big boobs.
But it has very noticeable strengths that I feel aren't talked about enough. For example, the colorful cast of characters you'll interact with throughout the game are quite charming, with archetypal and frankly overdone character traits, but charming nonetheless. We've got the beautiful, kind, and stoic badass love interest in Red, energetic and genuinely unhinged Hot Topic girl Violet, sweet mother of Moses, what is this fun fact, alongside the carefree, comedic best friend to our comparatively quiet main character Yellow. And that's just the main cast. When including side characters, you've got the stern yet caring boss in the angel Mikey, also the sassy secretary with Gabby, who has a very noticeable New Jersey accent.
You've earned yourself a heavenly delight ticket.
Which is great, I didn't know they let people from New Jersey into heaven. You can pretty easily find many examples of these character dynamics in various other forms of media. Whether or not the boilerplate nature of these characters turns you away is completely up to you. But I often feel like we confuse cliché with bad. Anything can fall into categories which other writers have driven into the ground. But it's what you do with these tired concepts that matters. And in Neon White's case, these characters are more in-depth than you would initially think. Characters like Violet especially go through a decent character arc. Sure, it's over the top and a bit exaggerated, but that's this game's whole style. She's not the only example either, though she's by far the most out front with it. Even those that don't have a discernible character arc at the very least have understandable motives, which explain how they've ended up where they have. At least in terms of the character interactions and relationships. I don't think anyone could have pictured themselves being thrown into Christian Danganronpa. They also have great chemistry between both themselves and Neon White himself. Unlike a shocking quantity of video games, I did not feel completely disconnected from the cast. Certainly I can't call them believable, but I never once doubted the fact that these characters were all friends. Something that some writers struggle with.
You have one too, don't you?
My mission is to kill chaos. That's all I know.
Granted, most of my praise for this mostly comes down to the wonderful voice talent behind each character. Most notably, you'll recognize our main character's scruffy voice belonging to the man himself, Steve Bloom. You know, Tank Dempsey, Zeb from Star Wars Rebels, and freaking Spike from Cowboy Bebop.
Stay dead, cheesehead!
Also, Mikey from before is voiced by ProZD.
You're a sexy Statue of Liberty.
You know, the guy who eats snack food until he hates them. The entire cast is full of talented VAs, and they bring a massive amount of charisma into their characters through their performances. If the main segments of the game weren't voice acted, I'd more than likely have a much more negative impression on the story. That's just how good the voice acting is. Not that the plot is bad, mind you, it has an interesting setup and concept. However, the story itself is predictable, extremely so. From the first encounter with the villain all the way to the credits, I was able to call out every beat of the plot, excluding one major twist involving the residents of heaven and their relationship with God, but that's more so a deep lore point, so I'm not gonna spoil that for you here. The goal of this video is of course to convince you that the product is worth your time after all. On that note, let's get into the real meat of the game. Speedrunning shooter dating sim time, let's go! There are quite a few moving pieces inside Neon White that make it the exceptional experience that it is, and as such, I've decided to break up what would usually just be the gameplay segment into a few separated mini chapters. And listen, if you've seen the second channel, you'll understand why this will help me keep on topic. I have a noticeable tendency to ramble. This game is one of the most mechanically sound gaming experiences I've ever had. The combat, if you can call it that, effortlessly flows into the movement challenges. New mechanics are introduced in a concise manner, getting you back into the action as soon as possible, whereas many other video games like to stop you dead in your tracks and lead you through a linear scripted segment that's only here to tell you that you push the jump button to jump. God forbid when a game tells you how to move. Oh really? God, it's almost like every fucking game uses the same keys and or thumbsticks to do that! I think we got a bit off topic. Also, Neon White, despite my praise, does fall into some of the more annoying traps when it comes to tutorialization. Whenever you unlock a new weapon, you'll see an on-screen wall of text popping up in front of you, cluing you into the weapon's usability in terms of firepower and level traversal. Annoying for sure, but it's not as much of a pace killer as the referenced scripted segments from above. From your first encounter with the handgun soul card, you learn the basic formula going forward. Your primary fire will always involve some form of gun violence. The secondary fire will trigger a unique special move. Unfortunately, it has the side effect of destroying the gun equipped, but it allows for greater movement speed. This remains the same for all the guns in the game. Applying this knowledge to the following weapon cards you find is vital to getting the most out of your runs. Unlike most shooters, your lineup of weapons are soul cards, pretty much guns with a different name. Aside from the katana card you start each stage with, you'll only be able to use the equipped card for as long as it has ammo, though you can hold 3 cards at once, whether they be duplicates or completely different ones. There's a pretty decent variety of tools at your disposal. Obviously you got the melee weapon and a pistol, alongside rocket launchers and crossbows. Throw in a physics-based weapon and we're close to being a Half-Life game. But in order to get the most out of your arsenal, you'll need to have a decent grasp on how to best utilize their capabilities. We're going to be talking about specific weapons now. I didn't feel like being clever here with the transition. What is there to know about the Elevate card, aside from the fact that you can't actually see the pistol on your screen when you have it equipped? Which, by the way, was a deliberate choice by the developers. The lead designer, Ben Esposito, is quoted as saying, "The decision to use cards instead of actual weapons in the game is one of the game's design goals, stating that players should look at cards not as weapons, but instead as resources that allow for greater movement." A great point for the handgun, because as a weapon, it's pretty worthless once you get further into the game. Its standard attack takes at least 3 shots to kill, and runs out of ammo fairly quickly. But its discard ability is one of the most useful in the sandbox. Sacrificing the pistol gives you a double jump, allowing you to reach platforms and areas outside of your normal reach. No! No! Come on! And if you've managed to hold onto 3 pistol soul cards, you can stack their double jump and reach heights that Mario wishes he could do. Too bad he's in prison after putting a cap in Wario's ass. This is JustinLMG. It's got the absolutely satisfying firing sound, badass card art, and the hefty ammo count, though it deviates from other heavy machine guns in one particular way. It has no recoil. Same goes for all the other weapons as a matter of fact, making it one of the more effective ways to cut through the demonic threat. And its ability is really fun. The Purify card shoots out a grenade upon discarding, which can be used to either wipe away an entire crowd of demons, or as a method of traversal similar to rocket jumping. Oh wait, that's already a thing, and it's called grenade jumping. I'm sorry, I just needed to vent about the Flash and its awful CGI. Good God. Anyway, the Godspeed Soul card is a crossbow. It fires 4 shots before breaking and is powerful enough to shatter the weaker demons in a single shot, already making it one of the best choices in the entire game. That's without talking about what happens if you right-click, by the way.
Holy shit, you fucking killed her, dude!
That's right, once you sacrifice the Godspeed card, you dash forward at such a high speed, you literally phase through the demon, getting yourself to the next part of the stage, and killing the shadow monster in one fell swoop. Insert A-Train reference here. It's called Stomp. Take a wild guess what its special ability does. Jokes aside, the Stomp Soul card is an SMG with the most unstable spread in the game, though that it's still not much. And when right-clicked, you'll come crashing downward until you hit something, be that solid ground or the kill barrier once you fall off the map. You can use the Stomp to destroy red barriers and wipe enemies off the face of the heavens with the shockwave generated once you land, though the AoE is kinda unpredictable, but overall still a great addition. Alright, alcoholic uncles out there, this is a soul card, not whiskey, so get out of here! I really gotta start locking my doors, man. This soul card is tied with the next one for the spot of most powerful common weapon throughout the game. As you've probably guessed from the art on the card, Fireball is a shotgun, and once you're within punting range of a poor demon, you can end their existence with a single trigger flick. And that goes for the stronger guys as well. And when discarded, ooh boy, it is something amazing. It takes everything great about the crossbow's dash, the speed and the capability to eviscerate demons, increase the dash range, and add in the ability to dash in any direction you wish. And I shouldn't have to tell you why this thing is useful. It is great. I love it. This card is the unholy trinity of an RPG, Spider-Man, and one of those cheap sticky hands you used to see at all the dollar stores as a kid. The rockets will absolutely destroy anything in your path, be that shadow monsters or the occasional red door in your way. Dominion's primary fire also has the unique ability to be useful outside of just killing targets. You can use the rocket's explosions to jump. Yep, you could do the TF2 thing here, and the secondary move sends out a blue string which will attach to any solid surface and swing you towards it. The Book of Life is shockingly good at taking it away. This soul card is only available during the latter half of the experience. For good reason, mind you, this thing is unbelievably overpowered. There is absolutely no left click attack, meaning the only attack this card had is, well, come on, just look at it. The best part about this is that whenever you teleport to the enemy, aside from sending it to the Shadow Realm, you maintain the momentum you had before you ported over, essentially making you an unstoppable, speedy god. But what good is a wide variety of fun-to-use weapons without things to shoot? The demons in Neon White are, well, unremarkable. They have pretty decent designs, but they aren't memorable in any way, except for the one that's just a giant severed head that will one-shot you if you're not fast enough. Yeah, that one was kind of notable. Because he made me want to rip my nuts off! Not to mention the fact that the enemies are completely static. They won't move or interact with the world in any meaningful ways, though this was definitely intentional. If you recall the quote from the lead designer, they mentioned that the weapons are simply tools to help you move through the stages faster. I believe the monsters are in a similar vein, as killing the demons are the most common way to obtain new soul cards to keep you moving. And I think they made the right choice. Cutting down demons all while making record times on these levels, it'll make you feel like one of those badass speedrunners you see all the time on Twitch. Who doesn't want to be this cool? A game designed with speedrunning at its core would be absolutely nothing if the maps themselves were badly laid out. Take a guess if Neon White made bad levels. Knowing when and where to sacrifice your cards for a boost of speed or added jump height is half the fun of the game. You can find some incredible shortcuts in these stages with just a tiny bit of experimentation, both intentional and unintentional. But don't ask me to distinguish between the two of them. It can be kind of difficult to draw the line of what was my own shortcut or one the game intended for me to discover eventually. This is, of course, because the levels are designed in such a way to facilitate swift completion. Take your pick of any level. They'll all be formatted in a similar manner. There will be an obvious route, simple, safe, if not a bit slow. But if you take the time to explore, you'll quickly find new ways to charge through the stages. And if you don't want to do that, or you're like me and can act rather smooth-brained at times, you can use the skill points accumulated throughout the campaign to point out new pathways, denoted by this golden hand symbol. Oh, by the way, that's how you distinguish what's an officially intended shortcut and a player-made one. Yeah, I answered my own question in the video, what about it? Another thing that constantly surprises me when it comes to the stages is the sheer variety of them all. It'd be extremely boring and underwhelming if each level was a straight line with a few twists and turns, but the team at Angel Matrix cooked up something fantastic, perfectly melding all other aspects of the gameplay together, with the fantastic maps as the cherry on top. The levels, on top of being extremely replayable, are crafted in a vein similar to puzzle platformers, jumping from platform to platform while needing to kill every demon around in order to unlock the level's exit, all while expected to do it as fast as possible. It's a tricky situation in and of itself, but the further you progress, you'll encounter tricks and traps designed to take complete advantage of your soul cards. Levels that descend downward seemingly forever, perfect fodder for the stomp card, climbing up a towering building, engaging in reflex-based combat, and tricky vertical platforming. Or, in my personal favorite example, race against a tangle of exploding trip mine demons to make it to the level's exit before said monsters blow up the platform you need to escape on. Dodging underneath level geometry, dealing with the occasional roadblock with a quick crossbow shot. It seems easy enough, but it is very easy to miss the openings by just a few milliseconds. Too bad you can cheese it pretty easily. The total mission count for Neon White is over 97? Sweet merciful Jesus, what? Jokes aside, it does seem like quite a daunting level count, but considering that when going as slowly as humanly possible, you'll still be beating missions in 2 minutes. So that number is in no way indicative of a lengthy game. Taking out the story segments and cutscenes, you're left with about 2 to 3 hours of gameplay, adding another hour or so if you're hell-bent on perfecting each stage to the best of your ability. While fun, that's not nearly enough content to justify a $25 price tag. Good thing that's not nearly all the game has to offer. Interspersed between the frantic, fast-paced demon murdering, you'll be returned to the main hub world, a section of heaven where the Neons are allowed to roam around and spend what little free time they have, drinking their afterlife away at a shady bar run by a cat, because the residents of heaven refuse to let the sinners anywhere near them. Yeah, that's the segregation I mentioned earlier. But it's here in the hub world where you can engage in a number of typical visual novel activities. For starters, you can interact with any of the main cast outside of the cutscenes, chatting with them for small, bite-sized bits of information that help White piece together his past relationships with them. Rating-wise, they are about the same quality as the main game, so if you had a problem with it there, you're not gonna like it here. Not at all, because it's here with the optional character scenes where the true dating sim aspects come into play. Boobies! Whilst running through the many levels in Neon White, you'll find secret boxes spread throughout them, usually in super hard to reach areas, but with enough level knowledge and blind curiosity, you'll reach them sooner rather than later. Once nabbed, you can offer up the gift boxes to the correlating characters. Red for red, violet for violet, and yellow for yellow. The gifts are unique from person to person as well. Typical suspects like perfume, cigars, and such, but for some reason, Violet gets a plush tattletale? You know, from that one indie horror game? Once you've handed them a gift, you'll be given one of 3 rewards. Number 1, a dialogue scene which helps you deepen your relationship with them. 2, an intense platforming challenge labeled as a side quest. These are some of the most difficult platforming segments seen in the whole game. Really fun, though they should have a warning about broken keyboards on them because my god. And 3, the depressing realization that you have given anime women more attention than your actual friends. Aside from that, you will unlock special events from the Heavenly Kiosk. These occur whenever you've reached a milestone in the game, and are comedic sections that simply let the characters be themselves. And before you ask, yes, there is a beach episode.
Calm down, son. It's just a drawing, not the real thing.
Fun fact, this section is actually only being added in now, because apparently throughout this entire review I had neglected to mention one of my most enjoyed aspects about the game. While browsing through the many Steam reviews for this video, there was one thing mentioned more than the community's distaste for the dialogue. Don't worry, I'm not going to use that clip again. And that thing was the overwhelming praise for the soundtrack. high energy, frantic, and oddly relaxing are the first words that come into my mind when reflecting on the music. There isn't a single song in this game that I find bad or even mediocre. Much like the rest of the game, the OST is practically orgasmic. Put together by the talented artist Machine Girl, Neon White's soundtrack makes use of both punk rock, electronic pop, and mashes them together into something great. Oh, and with a hint of general rap influences when it comes to a few character motifs. To showcase this, I'm gonna play you guys a few of my favorite tracks from the album. So yeah, it's great, and you should all buy a digital copy of the album on Machine Girl's Bandcamp. It's some seriously high quality stuff, but I'm far from a music critic.
Damn, boy, he's sick, boy!
So let's wrap this up, shall we? There are some games that, as soon as you play them, you're hooked right from the beginning. I ran through the game's main questline and side content in little over 2 weeks, literally glued to my screen, as they say. The phenomenal art style, fast-paced platforming, and basic but interesting enough storyline made the game impossible to drop, which is still a habit that haunts me to this day. I wasn't kidding when I said that this is one of the most mechanically sound video games I've ever had the pleasure of playing, so I implore every single one of you who have stuck around to the end of this review, give Neon White a playthrough. It's odd, hard to explain, but it's a game made for freaks, and I'm one of them. By the way, if I see any comments about the Bible jokes at the start of this video, I just wanted to let you know that I'm Christian.